Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you when you're watching this. Hope you're having a good day. My name is Andrew, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the college football playoffs today. This is our first attempt at kind of just doing some of this as I start to kind of want to get into sports talk and podcast world and do some of the different things in that venue. I've been a long time streamer in caster over on Twitch. And I'm kind of trying to transition some more into one of my main passions, which is sports and football. Um, I am, if you can pay attention to the hat, I am a diehard Sooner fan. And so we're primarily going to be looking at things on this channel through a Sooners lens and talking mostly about Oklahoma football over anything else. We will kind of comment on certain things like college football playoffs. For instance, you can see my backdrop, right? Or any other typical things that might be going on. But this will be more tailored to mostly just Oklahoma Sooners football and talking all things about it, analyzing it, breaking things down, talking about the team, talking about the future, talking about all of it. A little bit about me. I am somewhat of an analytical person. I analyze things. I try to diagnose things through an analytical viewpoint. I have a little bit of homerism, of course, but mostly I try to look at things through a analyzed viewpoint that I try to keep the bias out for the most part. It is very difficult sometimes. But right now, I wanted to go live, or rather put this out today, because we're going to talk about the college football rankings. Did the committee get it right? Right? And they talk about the criteria that they need in order to get things right. They talk about all sorts of things. I'm going to just focus in on three things that I think the committee needs to do today to really, I mean, not today, but in the future. Three things in the future that if they just clean up, if they just make more emphasis over it. It's been all over Twitter, all over the sports world. Miami deserves in. Oh, Notre Dame deserves in. Texas deserves in. Vanderbilt deserves in. All these teams, BYU, all this discussion between all these bubble teams and what makes one team more worthy than another to have a chance to prove they are the best team in the country. Because that's what you got to really understand when you're talking the college football playoffs and you're talking about the future of who determining who has a right to be in this playoff bracket. You're not just trying to say, I think this team is one of the 12 best teams in the country. That's not the question we're asking, right? We're asking who has the best, resume, if you will, to show that they are the best team in the country, to have a chance to play in this tournament, to have a chance to prove they are the number one team. That's what this is about. This isn't about making a 12-team playoff. The Georgias, Alabamas, Notre Dame, Indiana, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, all these teams, like we're not trying to say we're one of the 12 best teams in the country, man. Okay, Notre Dame probably is one of the 12 best teams in the country. Texas probably is one of the 12 best teams in the country, right? Miami, one of the 12 best teams in the country. BYU, I don't know. I don't know about BYU. Schedules matter, man. Like we're gonna get to it. Schedules matter, and who you play matters. And in the committee, I don't envy their job, but I do believe that they just don't have enough transparency. So we're talking about adding a little transparency. We're talking about making a statement with certain choices that they make, and you got to be able to make a statement. You got to be able to say this matters, this doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but not as much as this. Like, way you weight things in your thought process when you rank your teams 1 through 12 and you choose those teams that have an opportunity to prove they're the best team in the country, it takes a little bit, right? I just noticed that the thing we got up here is actually wrong. This was last week's. I thought I put in the right one. We did not. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Now we need to add in the new one. Totally messed that up. Give me 1 second, and we'll put up the to bracket. Da, da, da. Trying to find this graphic online is difficult, because everything is it just pulls up all the old ones today. There we go. College football bracket today. I think this is the right one right here. Yep. Boom. Okay, let me snippet this, throw it up. Good start, guys. Good start, right? Very good start. I did try to do this beforehand, but it didn't exactly matter. All right, there we go. Boom. All right, there we go. We got the college football bracket right there, to kind of pay attention to these teams, because we're going to talk about these teams. We're going to talk about the bubble teams. We're going to talk about a little bit of it all. But primarily, I just want to focus today on the three things that I believe if the committee puts out there and if they get it right, then it will help. It will help. Transparency is important. I believe in transparency, especially in sports and competitions. If you're not transparent in a competition, you're always going to have people feeling like that they didn't know the criteria enough and that they don't understand the criteria by which they're being judged. And that's not fair. That's not fair to these programs. That's not fair in life, to judge someone by a standard that you don't put out clearly and with transparency, right? Now, it is what it is right now. And I was listening to sports talk radio this week, and all this discussion, all this discourse, all of this is happening. All this buzz around college football is happening is a good thing. It's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. The playoff committee trying to figure this out, all these fan bases arguing with one another. The traction that is happening in college football right now is positive traction. It is good. It is amazing. Now, there's some going to be there are doomers that are like, well, it's hurting college football, the integrity of the sport. People are going to get all upset about it. But it's not about that. Like, there's a lot of discourse. People are talking. They got college football on the brain. They got it on the mouth. Everybody's talking it, and that is good for the sport. Now, three things I want to say that the committee can focus on and potentially fix. And we're going to put those three things out, and then we're going to discuss, did the committee get these right this time? If they talk about these things, if they bring these forward, it'll make a change. It'll make a difference, I think. So these are three things I kind of came up with that I believe needs looked at. Number one, non-conference games. Non-conference games. Your typical college football team plays a schedule of 12? 12. Sorry, I have a brain. They play 12 games. They play, if you're in the SEC, you play 9 conference games. Other conferences play like 8 conference games. But you play a conference schedule and then you play a non-conference schedule. Non-conference games matter, right? Who you play in your non-conference does matter. It does make a difference. You can't just play nobody and expect at the end of the season to say you have a resume, right? So the committee has a duty to ensure that these non-conference big games matter. Now, this is a very contentious point, these games, because schools are now looking at, well, if you lose this big game, like, that's a loss on your record, and I didn't have to play that game. I could now have a better record. And y'all are going off my record. I got 3 losses. Texas fans, I'm looking at you. I got 3 losses, and one of those wouldn't have been there if we didn't play this team. We didn't play this big game. The committee has a duty and a responsibility to ensure that these non-conference games matter, because the integrity of the sports, you don't want to play 3 FCS schools in your non-conference. You don't want to play tiny little schools that don't matter, Group 5 schools that are with losing records. You don't want to play those teams. You want to play good games. Fans deserve to see good games being played. Fans deserve that. I got a dog interrupting me. Hey, buddy, you go lay down. Go lay down. Go on. No, go lay down. Back door's open. You go lay down. Go on. Go lay down. Go eat. Just staring at me. All right. Anyways, back to the conversation. These games matter, right? I'm used to being a live streamer and talking to people, so apologies in this video because I probably won't do much editing on it. We'll see. We're just kind of getting our feet wet into this genre. But these big games, they matter. Texas versus Ohio State. That's the biggest one in the room, right? Everybody's looking at Texas versus Ohio State. If Texas didn't play that game, if they would have played, I don't know, a Louisiana Monroe Tech or something, you know, if they would have played some Raging Cajuns or some other small group of five, if they would have played a FCS school there, then they would be 10-2 right now. And yeah, they would be. They would be. And if they're 10-2 Texas playing a little school, then absolutely. They would be 10-2. They'd probably be in, I don't know. Would they be in over Oklahoma? Would Oklahoma fall out? As, you know, on the bubble team, like a Vanderbilt? Would they be down there like a Vanderbilt? Would they be, would Alabama fall out if Texas was in this game, you know, was in the conversation? Or would they knock Miami out and put Texas in? And, you know, what would they have done if they had a 10-2 Texas? Where would they even go? But that's not the point. The point is these games matter. Ohio State winning that game against Texas is a statement to the committee. It says we are easily, without reasonable doubt, you can look at our team and say, yeah, they might be the best team in the country. Because that's what needs to happen. Outside of the 5 conference championships where 2 Temple and JMU gets in, right? Outside of those 2, the rest of the team that aren't automatic qualifiers, the ones that aren't automatic qualifiers, you have to look at them with the perspective of, is this team potentially the best team in the country? Are they the best team in the country, right? And these games matter to determine that. The analysis. That committee, they're sitting there and they're looking at everything, and they're looking at these big non-conference games because they're trying to determine who might be the best team in the country and who has a right to play for it. Winning a big non-conference game is a massive, massive statement to the committee that you deserve a chance to play for the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State beating Texas, that's a big statement. Texas is a strong school in one of the, if not the strongest conference in college football. Ohio State played them. Ohio State won. Ohio State gets rewarded for that because the rest of Ohio State's schedule wasn't that good. They didn't play a whole lot of big schools. They didn't go up against a whole lot of big names. And where are they ranked? They're number 2. You think they're number 2 because they were undefeated against a bunch of, lower tiered schools? Against the lower part of the Big Ten? They didn't play Oregon. They didn't play Indiana until the championship game. They didn't play USC. They didn't play any of these schools, right? And if they did, it would have made a difference. But that non-conference game, it matters. Beating Texas week 1 of the season is a statement, and the committee heard that statement. That's why they're number 2. That's why they're ahead of Texas Tech. That's why they're ahead of Georgia. Texas losing that game also does matter. I think when you look at these non-conference games and you determine how much they weigh, you're looking at everything with weight, right? So you're saying, okay, I'm going to give weight to this. If I'm sitting on that committee, everything I do has to have a weight modifier. If we're looking at that, like, okay, we're going to say assign points to different things. Winning a big non-conference game, that's worth 2 points. Losing a non-conference game, well, that's only, a big non-conference game against a top school. I'm just going to give you a 0.5. Negative 0.5 for losing that game. It's not going to count as a full loss. It's a half of a loss. You played a very strong school. You played them close. You kept it to a touchdown, to 1 score, and you get a little bit of reprieve for that. Not complete reprieve, but a little bit whenever I am weighing things in my mind. But these games have to matter because we are trying to find out who the best team in the country is. And when you play these big games in non-conference, when you play the OU Michigan game, it makes a statement that we are a school that determined that we might be the best team in the country. Yeah, we weren't perfect through the year, but we won that game. We showed that we could show up for a big game, and we showed up and we played and we won. Miami beating Notre Dame. I think they made the statement that early game, week 2 of the season, it matters. It matters. It matters that Miami scheduled it, and it matters that Miami won it. Can you imagine if Miami hadn't had that Notre Dame game? If they didn't beat a Notre Dame? If they just had the schedule that they had with the 2 losses that they had, you think they're in right now? No, they're not. I'll tell you right now, they are not. It'd be a 3-loss team, or it would be maybe Vanderbilt in, or maybe BYU in. But if Miami hadn't beat Notre Dame early in the season, if they hadn't proved that they can play with what we consider some of the best teams in college football, top 15, then if they haven't proven that they can do that, then they wouldn't have a spot here. Because you got to prove that you can do that for a spot here. You have to, right? So non-conference games, they matter. And the committee has to make sure that that everybody that sees these games, that these happen, that it makes a difference and that it matters. OU versus Texas, that's a conference game, but OU against Michigan, beating Michigan, that's a big statement win. That is a statement win. And these statement wins are worth big, big points in the eyes of the committee. And I think the committee needs to recognize that. I think they started to try to recognize that in this. I think I do believe that these, the current brackets and the rankings, it shows that those matter. These big non-conference games. It proves that they matter. And I think that's great, right? I think that's a good thing. Number 2, I do think they kind of got the non-conference games right. Did they come out and say that? No. I think they need to. I think they need to come out and say, these games matter to us. Don't avoid scheduling these games, because if you avoid scheduling these games, you lose like a lot of your criteria to be weighted. I no longer can know whether you deserve to be in the playoffs if you don't play a good team, especially out of conference. SEC, they kind of have the benefit of the doubt because they're playing a lot of other SEC schools. Big Ten maybe gets the benefit of the doubt at times when they play the other big schools in the Big Ten. But when they don't play the other schools that are strong in the Big Ten, how do you prove your worth? How do you prove your worth if you're playing all the bottom feeders of the SEC, Texas A&M? How do you prove your worth? You got to prove your worth, and these non-conference games, they prove your worth to play. Go and win them. And if you stumble and lose one, it'll matter, but the weight of it won't be that strong or as strong, but it will matter. Just you got to make up for the rest of the season. You're playing these non-conference games typically at the beginning of the year, okay? If you stumble and fall, Texas, you got to be more diligent to not stumble and fall 2 more times now. It's that simple. But if you win that game, the benefit to winning that game is huge. I'm former military. I'm a veteran, right? 8 years in the military. We had things in the military called non-commissioned officer rating reports, right? So just like you get, NCOER is what we call them, just like you get a report at your office, we get reports to determine how well we are doing, what type of non-commissioned or officer we are, whether we are good at our job, whether we're rated on all sorts of things. And in the Army, you got 2 people that are growing and coming up, and they are the same rank. They're both, let's say E6. They're both same rank. They're doing the same job every day. How do you determine one is better than the other? Criteria, right? You got to have criteria to determine one is better than the other. Something has to come out that says this person has done this or this person has done this to be above the other. So I say that, and if I'm trying to be prove my worth, as a military non-commissioned officer. And I'm trying to prove my worth that I'm better than the guy next to me and that I deserve promotion over them, that I deserve rank and position over them. I have to do things to stand out. I have to take on duties, extra responsibilities. I have to do things that are above and beyond my job every day. If we're both doing the same job, I have to do something to prove I am more than they are, that I am more capable than they are. So I take on, I don't know, signing for all the equipment on an exercise. So I put millions of dollars below my name, that I'm responsible for those millions of dollars of equipment. And I made sure we didn't have any losses in the field. Things like that. So you take on responsibilities and you take on difficult tasks to prove you are better than the person next to you. That's what the non-conference games are. They are a difficult task that you take on. And yes, it's a risk. It is a risk. But the reward to take on that task and to achieve that task and to do that task better than the person next to you, the reward for that is recognition at the end of the year when they're putting these brackets together. You won that game, it matters. The risk of losing, it's worth it because the reward of winning it is the committee rewarding you with position, with a place in the conference champion, in the playoff brackets. It matters. I think I beat that point to death now, right? Number two, conference championships games. Oh, no, that's number one or number three. Sorry. Number two, records and metrics. Records and metrics, they matter, right? If you're undefeated, it makes a difference. If you've only lost one game, it makes a difference. If you've lost 2 games, it makes a difference. If you lost 3 games, it matters. I'm sorry. There's only one team that has lost 3, and that's Alabama. And that's because their third loss didn't come in the regular season. The third loss came in the championship game. If Texas would have been a 2-loss team and then gone to the championship game in the SEC and lost that game, Texas would be in. They did exactly what Alabama did, but their third loss came in a championship game, then they'd be in. But it didn't. It didn't. These records and the metrics, they do matter. How you fare during your conference play matters. Because if you can't prove that you might be the best team in your conference, then I don't think you can prove you're the best team in the country. Right? If you lose 2 to 3 games in your conference, and then you've lost one before that, you can't prove you're the best team in the country. You've lost that right. You've lost that ability. These records, they do hold weight. They do matter. Losing a game matters. I remember when I was, watching OU for years and years and years, back when the BCS did the thing, the rating of the BCS. If you lost those years, man, college football, one and done. You lose one game, you're done. I remembered that. You lose a game, you're probably done for the year. You are now on the outside looking in, just hoping you have another chance. You stumble once, you're done. Let alone you stumble twice, you're definitely done. I don't care about the circumstances. I don't care that your quarterback was injured. I don't care that your top linebacker and defense was injured. I don't care that the ref screwed a game over. You lose a game, you're not making it into. You don't get a chance to play for the best team. That's how it was. And I think we're getting a little soft here with college football. Teams can stumble now. They can take off a week and lose a game. Didn't really matter. Texas A&M losing the game to Texas before the playoff game didn't really matter. Knocked them down a little bit. They don't get the same ranking. They don't get the same, home. They don't get a bye now. But they didn't have to play an extra game. You can stumble now. You can stumble now in college football. You can't stumble 3 times in college football and still be like, wow, we're worthy. You stumbled 3 times. You lost 3 games. Or if you're Vanderbilt, you lost 2 games. If you're BYU, you lost 2 really important games. and didn't look competitive in those. Records matter. Stumbling, tripping up, and losing a week, taking a week off, those matter. OU's 2 losses absolutely matter. They almost cost them. Alabama losing 2 games and then losing a championship game matters. It almost cost them. But these games do matter. You can't just lose. Miami lost 2 games, and it almost cost them everything. Notre Dame started off the season 0-2. It cost them the playoffs because those games do matter. You need to win those games. You can't just lose. You can't have bye weeks. And these schedules are getting more and more difficult the more teams that are in the SEC, the more teams that the Big Ten has that are top-heavy, that are good. These schedules get more and more difficult. You're going to trip up. You're going to stumble. Indiana is the only undefeated team in the country, which is wild to say. But these games matter, right? Your record matters. And your metrics. The metrics are behind your record. So the record alone has to stand. And then you look at the metrics behind it. What were the teams that they played in their records? Well, how strong were they? Were they any good? What are their win-loss records of the teams you played? Are any of the teams you played in the top 15 or whatever? Are they up there? Where are they up there? Are they on a bubble team? Are they a really strong team? Those records, those metrics, they all come into play. And the committee, I think the committee definitely does a good job of trying to make sure these records matter, that win-loss does matter. And you do need to make sure that you do not keep stumbling several times. You can't. You just can't stumble several times and expect to be in the playoffs. You stumble 3 times, like you're not in. And that's a good precedent. Because you used to stumble once and you weren't in. Now you get 3 chances to stumble. If you stumble 3 chances, though, and you spin those, well, sorry, you're gone. You don't deserve to be in. All right, number 3. Championship games. SEC championship, Big Ten championship, ACC championship. Oh, yeah, the Big 12. Big 12, whatever. Anyways, these championships games, they do matter. You shouldn't avoid them, is what I'm saying. You shouldn't avoid them. They are resume boosting. Georgia. Texas Tech. These are resume boosting. They boost your resume. And if you're afraid to play in a championship game because you're afraid that you might lose your championship game and be knocked out of the playoffs, if you can't prove you're the best in your conference, do you really get a chance to prove you're the best in the country? We're talking end of the season, final game of the year. If you lose that conference championship game and your team looks like absolute ass and looks like they don't belong, then you don't belong in the playoff. And I'm looking at Alabama. I'm looking at BYU. I don't think Alabama deserved to be in the playoffs. I think losing that conference championship game, they deserve to be out. I would have put Notre Dame in. I would have taken Alabama out. If I had to say. Because these games should matter. And I get it. You're like, well, the other teams didn't have to play. Why should we be penalized because we were successful? We were successful in our conference. So why are we being penalized for losing in a championship game that others didn't have to play? If OU had to play in a championship game and lost, they would be out. They would be out. They would deserve to be out. Because it puts you at 3 losses. It puts you at 3 losses. These games have to matter. One, because you want to go to that championship game. You want to put that ring on your finger. That's why I think they originally, when they did the college football playoffs, they did it so that the championship games, they ensured that they're automatic buys. If you go to your championship game and you win that, automatically in. And I think that puts a lot of weight on the championship game. If you can just get to your championship game and you can win it, then you're in the playoffs. And it's a buyout, right? It's a buyout. It's a bailout. Sorry, a bailout, not a buyout, but it's a bailout. If let's say Texas. I love using Texas. Let's say Texas loses to Georgia, loses another non-conference game, maybe loses 3 non-conference games, and they look garbage. And then they sweep the entire SEC when they play in the regular season, and they go to the championship game and they win. They're in. They're in. They wouldn't have been in all year long. All year long, you're looking at them and you're like, they're not a playoff team. They're not a playoff team. Look at those 3 losses early in the year. They're not a playoff team. They're not a playoff team. They're not a playoff team. They just keep winning. They win SEC games. It doesn't matter how they win. They don't lose any in the SEC. And then they go to the SEC championship and they win it. They're in the playoffs. It is an opportunity to get in as an automatic qualifier for teams that stumble early in the season. All you got to do is win your conference, and you're in. Well, except for Duke. Sorry, you lost 5 games. That's a little bit different than 3. But the championship game is an opportunity. It's a bailout for teams that need it, teams that aren't in. So now you're talking about 2 teams that are technically already in, Alabama and Georgia, and you're like, okay, these teams are already in. They're already playing in the college football playoffs, and now they got to go play an extra game. It's a resume booster, right? It's another data point that you get to give the committee, one either positive or negative. But it should matter. And it does matter. And I think for BYU, I think if they play that game close against Texas Tech, I think if it comes down to the 4th quarter and they're down a field goal or down a touchdown and they end up just barely losing that game, I think BYU's in. I think BYU gets put in here. Probably over Miami. But that didn't happen. BYU got boat raced again. They played tough for like a quarter and a half, and then Texas Tech just ran away with it. And when you're trying to prove whether you're the best team in the country, that you deserve to fight to be the best team in the country, you can't lose to one team over and over by large margins. You have to be competitive in those games. For 4 quarters, you have to be competitive in order to say you deserve a chance. I think that's what really kind of hurt Texas, is they were not competitive against Georgia. I mean, 3 quarters they were competitive, then everything just fell apart for them, right? But that's the thing. That's the thing we're looking at here, is the championship games, they can hurt you, but they can also majorly help you. And I think you're looking at number one, my number 1 point, non-conference games, and then we're looking at championship games, and both of these are the same. There's risk and there's reward in playing these games. The reward of playing a game like this and performing well greatly outpaces the risk if you play poorly or if you lose, in my opinion. And so that's why I wouldn't even count these championship games as a full loss. I think they're a half loss as well. You kind of weigh it as a metric as it's a half loss. It doesn't count as a full loss. No one else had to play this game. They were rewarded in playing this game for having done what they did the whole season. And so the penalty for them losing it shouldn't be that severe. I definitely think A&M or Alabama, if they weren't going to drop them out, they should have dropped them down to like 10th. They should have been down at 10. I think the only reason they're not is, I definitely think they should have been at 10. Yeah. They should have been dropped down, but they weren't. But you got these games, and they got to matter. College football is about the championships. Winning your conference is a banner. Okay, it's a banner. It's a ring for the players. I got an Oklahoma ring somewhere around here from being part of a Big 12 championship team. I was just a student job, but I was part of the team, and I got a ring for it. Like, these players, they want championships. They want rings. There's songs about rings, and they played the hell out of those songs about rings. They matter. Winning the SEC, saying you're the best team in the SEC matters. If Georgia goes on and loses and doesn't win, let's say they get knocked out by Ole Miss in round 2. Ole Miss beats Tulane and then goes on to Georgia and beats Georgia. And Ole Miss it goes on to, potentially, play for a national championship. Georgia still gets to hang their hat on. We are the SEC champions. Sure, you got us in the playoffs, but we're the champions of the SEC. We're going to hang that banner. We're going to put on that ring, and we're going to be proud of it. It is an award. It is an accolade. You want it. You want it. And it matters. You can't just get rid of it. Right? BYU needed to win or to play competitive to be put into the playoff conversation. Again, the Big 12, right? If BYU would have been competitive in that game again, or if they would have won that game, they boost their resume. What happens to Texas Tech? I don't know. I don't think they get punished that far. I think Tech probably falls to like 6, 7. Maybe they fall to the 8th spot and Oklahoma bumps up. I don't know. But the BYU needed that win because the rest of their season, they didn't really do much. They didn't play a whole lot of tough teams. I think Utah was the toughest team they played, Utah and Texas Tech. Utah, they were okay this year. I think they're number 17 or 18, I think, after you get past all this. Utah's not a bad school, but they're also, you need that win. The ACC, Virginia needed a championship game to get in because their schedule just wasn't that tough. It was a down year. So if you have a schedule that's not that tough, let's say A&M had 2 losses. Let's say A&M had lost 2 times. They would need to win a conference championship game probably to get put in. Same goes for some of these other schools that have lost 2 times. The only reason Oklahoma put their feet in the cement here at number 8 and didn't move for like 2 or 3 weeks is because they played an insane schedule. Alabama, Tennessee, and I got it. Tennessee's way down now. Not way down, but they're not in the top 20. But Tennessee's a top 20 program. I'm sorry. Tennessee is a top 20 program. They didn't play Vanderbilt. Missouri is a top 25 program. Michigan, top 25 program. Who else did they play, man? You look at who all the teams they played, and they won in these environments. And then Ole Miss, they lost a very close game. Fumble a punt return, and they should have won. They should have won that game. Texas is the only game that OU that you could just look at the scorecard and be like, well, were they even competitive? But they were up at halftime, okay? OU was up at halftime in that game. And then a couple mistakes later, and the game's over. Because of OU's offense isn't this prolific, massive offense. So these championship games, they give you an opportunity that if you have a year where you don't play the best teams in your conference, all you got to do is win the games in your conference, have a chance to play for your championship, and win your championship, and you prove you belong. You set yourself apart. Because that is what college football needs to be about. And that is what the committee needs to make a statement to these teams. And I think that they somewhat did. You look at Notre Dame being left out. That is a statement that you didn't do enough to prove you belong. You didn't set yourself apart from the others. You beat up a bunch of bad teams. And you looked good doing it. But you lost to your 2 tough ones. You beat USC. That was a nice data point, beating USC. But did anybody really think USC belonged this year? I know I'm a Riley hater, but did anybody think USC belonged this year? Anybody at any point think, man, USC might win it all this year? No. Maybe a couple deranged, sick USC fans. But nobody else believed it. They never showed they belonged. They never played like they belonged. So your only win is over a team that didn't prove they belonged anywhere. You just haven't proven it. You haven't set yourself apart. You don't get your promotion. That's what it is. Let's look at it from terms of work. You don't get your promotion because you didn't set yourself apart from your peers. Miami did by beating you. They set themselves apart from their peers. Oklahoma did by beating Bama, Tennessee. They proved it. and set themselves apart from their peers. What are my other 2 lost teams? 3 lost teams. I think Vanderbilt proved it. I think Vanderbilt belongs. And I think if Vanderbilt didn't lose to Alabama, then they'd be in. If they had a different loss and it wasn't Alabama, Alabama would probably be out and they'd be in. If they had beaten Bama. You know, it's just these championship games, they give you an opportunity for these years where you don't have the weight of the schedule because the schedule is going to fluctuate. It's going to change. OU scheduled Michigan, like 10 years ago? And they're just now playing them. How are you supposed to know whether when you get to them, they're going to be good? All right, let's say OU scheduled Ohio State right now and said, you know what? In 8 years, let's play each other again, home and away. Let's set up this big non-conference game. We're both top teams right now. And then let's go 8 years into the future, and let's say Ohio State ain't that good. Ryan Day's been fired. They've gone downhill. Maybe they got hit with a sanction or two, and they're not even a ranked team. Nothing you can do about it. If you're OU, you scheduled them when they were good. People are going to say, hey, you played a cupcake schedule. Man, we tried. We tried not to. We tried to play some good people. It just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. They weren't good. It wasn't our fault that they fell off. They fell off. You know, I think when OU scheduled Tulane or scheduled Temple, they didn't expect Temple or Tulane or Illinois State to be decent football schools, and they actually ended up being decent football schools this year and in the past couple years. Right? So you look at these, you have times where you end up playing schools that are better than what you were expecting, and you have times where you play schools that are worse than you're expecting. You thought you were going to play the cream of the crop in the SEC this year? Well, they ended up not being that strong. And I think that's some of what OU is facing, a little bit of attrition here at the end of the year, where they face teams like Tennessee, Missouri, and South Carolina, Auburn, all these schools. They don't look that good now. They're good victories, and you go back and watch that win at Tennessee. That's an impressive-ass victory. But if you're just looking at Tennessee's schedule and what they've done and their record, and you're like, man, that's not that big of a deal to beat Tennessee this year. Tennessee didn't look that good. Tennessee lost to a lot of schools. Vanderbilt blew them out. Beat them by several touchdowns. So you have times where you don't play these big conference schedules where the teams you thought you scheduled were going to be good and they weren't that good. And the championship game, making it there, playing in it, is your opportunity to prove you belong, because you got to prove you belong. This isn't about just survive and make it and win a bunch of games against nobodies. If you win a game against, let's say you schedule only nobodies and you win. You only lose one game. And you're probably making the playoffs, but you didn't prove it, right? You didn't prove it. You just won the games that are in front of you, and that's all you can do. But the championship game is what really solidifies that you belong and that you have proven you belong. And it needs to matter. And the committee needs to make sure that they make a statement that these games do matter, that a team like BYU, they needed it. They needed the championship game because their schedule just wasn't that tough. They were behind in all the other metrics. Their record, their record was up there, but they didn't have any good non-conference games. And you know, if they can't win their conference, and they also don't schedule anybody in the non-conference, then I'm sorry, you lose twice. You don't belong. You know, Alabama's benefiting from playing tougher games, from playing, and beating Vanderbilt. That's a good win for them, right? Who else did they beat? They beat Georgia in the year. So Alabama has big victories. They've proven they belong. Because that's what it's about. It's about proving that you belong in an opportunity to show you're the best team in the country. And if you can't do that, if you have stumbled too many times, if you scheduled cupcakes in your non-conference schedule, if the metrics aren't behind you in your strength of schedule and conference, then you better hope that you've done something substantial like win a championship. Because you have to prove that you might be the best team in the country. And I think you look through this bracket, and we look at Indiana. Have they proven they might? Again, they might be the best team in the country. You can objectively look at them and say yes. They have proven that they might be the best team in the country, and they might be. I watched that game last night against Ohio State, and woo, they look good. They didn't look great, but they look good. Defense looked outstanding. Offense looked like it could struggle at times. Common theme this year. Number 2, Ohio State. Have they proven they belong? Had an easier schedule, but they beat Texas. They beat Michigan. They're in their championship game, and they barely lost it against the number 1 team in the country, against the undefeated Indiana. They've proven they belong. They might be the best team in the country. They deserved a chance to play. Georgia only lost 1 game, and that was to Alabama. They beat up a lot of schools. They destroyed Texas. Hard not to smile at that one. They'd proven they belong. They might be the best team in the country. Number 4, Texas Tech. Absolute studs on defense. Dismantling BYU. Dismantling every other team they played. Stumbled once. I'd like to see them play a better non-conference game, I think. Who do they play in non-conference? Let me get over here and look real quick. I don't remember them playing anybody tough in conference or out of conference. They played, let's see here. August, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Kent State, Oregon State. Yeah, they didn't play anybody non-conference. But they got big wins over Houston, big wins over Utah, big wins over BYU. Their one loss was to 4 points at Arizona State. Like, they have proven that they might be the best team in the country by these big wins over other ranked opponents. And the way they just look. They look like they could be the best team in the country. And I think you got to give it to them. They're number 4. Number 5. This bracket is so tiny, it's hard to read. Number 5, Oregon. Have they proven they might be the best team in the country? I don't think they have. When I look at Oregon, I don't see a team that I'm like, they might be the best team in the country. They beat USC. Let's look at Oregon schedule. I mean, all right, so you look back, they played Montana State, Oklahoma State, and Northwestern. Northwestern's a big Northwestern's a Big Ten team. Who was their third non-conference game? Oregon State? Yeah. So when they scheduled Oklahoma State, I don't think they expected Oklahoma State to be horrible. I'm assuming this was scheduled years back when Oklahoma State was probably competitive. And that was supposed to be like a competitive non-conference game, right? I think most teams are trying to do at least one good competitive non-conference game against a top, Power 4 opponent. But they hadn't really done much. I think when they beat Penn State, they made a big statement that they were a top school. And then we saw Penn State for what they were, and it was like, eh. Then they lose to Indiana, but they only lose to 10, by 10 to Indiana. They beat Iowa barely. They beat USC pretty good. I mean, I really don't think Oregon's done enough to be at number 5, if I'm looking at it. Do they deserve to be in? Sure. Do they deserve to be number 5? I don't think they've done enough. Can they be the best team in the country? Maybe. I don't know. To me, they haven't, like, they're one of those teams that I don't know if they're the best team in the country or not, but they deserve to try to show that they are. I think they've done enough to show, to show that they are. But they only lost 1 game, and that was to the number 1 team in the country, and they lost it by 10 points. Everything else they've won. So yeah, they deserve to be there. Number 6, you're looking at Ole Miss. Ole Miss schedule is another one that you're just kind of like, who do they play? They didn't play that good of teams, right? That win over Duke. Oh, that was a Gator Bowl last year. I'm sorry. Georgia State, They beat Kentucky. They beat Tulane. They dominated Tulane. That win is looking better and better because Tulane's obviously pretty good. Washington State, they barely beat Washington State, and I don't think Washington State's that good. So Ole Miss really only lost to Georgia. It is, and they didn't lose bad. They lost by 8 to the number 2 team in the country. They beat an Oklahoma on the road. They squeaked that one out. And they soundly beat the rest of the teams that they've played. So are they the best team in the country? I don't think so without Lane Kiffin. Could they be with Lane Kiffin? Yeah, probably. They might be one of the best teams in the country. They've stumbled a bit. They've struggled a bit. But overall, they've won every game but one. And that one loss, not a bad loss to the number 2 team in the country. So yeah, they belong. They have proven that they get a chance to try to be the best team in the country. Then we go number 7. We're looking at Texas A&M. Kind of the same thing, like a lot like Ole Miss, right? They're a lot like Ole Miss. Texas A&M had somewhat of an easier SEC schedule this year. Ole Miss did as well. Texas A&M did schedule UTSA, not really that strong of a school. Utah State, not that strong of a school. But they scheduled a Notre Dame. And it was a shootout, 41-40. And they beat them. And that's a big statement win. Other than that, they got wins over nobody. They barely beat South Carolina, and they lose to Texas. Like, A&M, that's why they're the lowest one-loss team. Because their schedule they haven't proven any. They haven't proven that they might be the best team in the country. Arkansas they had a lot of close games against teams that aren't even here, right? And so it's hard to say that they're the best team in the country, that they deserve to be considered the best team in the country, but they deserve a chance just because they've only lost one game, and they beat a Notre Dame team. Again, like I said, you go back to my criteria, non-conference big games matter. You think if they lose that game, they're in? No, they're out. A 2-loss A&M team's out. But that big win, that puts them in. That's why I'm saying that 3-step criteria, they checked off that first one in a big way by beating Notre Dame early in the year. So that helps cover up a stumble against Texas. Helps cover up missing the championship game. Helps cover up having a weaker schedule. That's why those games matter. Number 8, Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner, baby. Let's talk. Is there anything to talk about? That schedule was insane. Everybody before the year started was like, this Oklahoma team ain't that bad, but that schedule, they're probably going to lose 7 games. There's no way they're going to win more than that. Nobody believed in them. Nobody expected them to win these games. Nobody expected them to dominate in some of these games. That defense to be as nasty as it is. Everybody thought the defense was going to take a step back, losing Danny Stutzman, losing Billy Bowman on the back end. Everybody thought the defense wasn't going to be quite as good. And it's better. It's better than it was last year. I am in the boat that I don't know if it's that much better than last year's. I think last year's defense was very good. I think what last year's defense struggled with was our offense turned the ball over all the time and gave the other team constant good field position. A defense that gets good field position and wins that, and their team wins that field position battle is a lot easier to be great than when your team constantly is losing the field position battle because the offense turns the ball over or because you can't punt or because of some other stupid things. So, this Oklahoma team has proven that they might be the best team in the country. They've proven that they have a bad offense. But I don't know if bad's the right word. They faced a lot of tough defenses. But they have proven that they can play with anybody. And if you can play with anybody, and if you got a defense as good as it is, you have proven you might be the best team in the country. And you have earned a spot to try to show that you are. Whether you are or not will shake out. But you've earned it. Number 9, Alabama. We've already hit Alabama. We hit all these bubble teams already. 9, Alabama. 10, Miami. Miami won a big early game against Notre Dame. Makes a difference. Same thing as A&M. You'll have a couple bad losses. You stumbled a couple weeks, but that big non-conference game win, it matters. Alabama beating Georgia in the conference schedule, beating a Vanderbilt. These games matter. These are big games against big opponents, and they matter. And then you're looking at, I get it. Texas is like, well, what about us? We played big games. You're saying all these big games matter. That loss against Ohio State shouldn't have counted as much as a loss against anybody else. And we played Georgia, the number 2 team in the country. Everybody up there seems to have lost to Georgia, Alabama, A&M. All these teams lose to Georgia. Why can't our loss to Georgia be okay? And they're also saying, well, we beat A&M. We beat A&M. We beat Vanderbilt. We beat OU. That's 2 in the top 12 and 1 just out of it. I think Texas has proven they belong, that they might be. I think they have proven they might be the best team in the country. The only problem is you then go back to records matter. And you stumbled one too many times. I do think Texas has proven they might be the best team in the country. I do think Vanderbilt has proven they might be the best team in the country. I do think Notre Dame might be one of the best teams in the country. They just haven't proven it. And that's the problem. Tape is great. Eye test is great. But your body of work is more important than an eye test. You can look great, but if you haven't played anybody, that body of work means nothing. That body of work means everything. The eye test has to do more, right? So 3 things: non-conference games matter. Keep scheduling them teams. Records, where you stumble, how you stumble, who you stumble against, how your metrics look, those things matter. And championship games, keep playing them. That for some of you, that's your path each year to get into the college football playoff. For others of you, it is a chance for your players to iron sharpen iron, to get better. And if you look at it that way, if you look at it, hey, it's a chance. Look, Georgia, we could lose this game. We're not falling out of the playoffs. Alabama, I thought they might fall out of the playoffs again. I said it earlier. I think they maybe deserve to fall out. But iron sharpen iron. You want to be in that game. Texas A&M wanted to be in that game. They needed it. They haven't played enough big schools. And they needed to be in that game. It would have made their players better to go on this run. Now they got to go play Miami with weeks off. And their players, let's hope their players get up for it. They already proven that they struggle to get up for some games, like the Arkansas game that took them a half or whatever. Was it Arkansas? No, it was South Carolina. Took them a while to even decide they wanted to play that game, right? Anyways, these things matter. And these are my 3 things that I think the committee really just needs to put out a statement and be like, look, we're looking at these 3 things. College football. These things are important to us. They matter to us. Don't go and cancel your games against good schools. Play those games. It is your opportunity to prove you belong. Because everything you should do in college football should be about proving you're better than your peers. You deserve the promotion. You deserve the opportunity more than your peers. And playing cupcakes doesn't prove it. You need more. Go ahead and schedule cupcakes if you want. But if you stumble in the games in conference, if you stumble in those games, no mercy. No mercy. You want to make sure you're the best team in the country. You want to prove you're the best team in the country. Schedule that game. Go and win it. Go and win it. That's all for me. It's been 1 hour. Thank you for tuning in. If you watch this, I appreciate you. Even if you only watch part of it, listening to me ramble. I hope to eventually start to do more of these type of podcasts. Maybe even in the future, building up a regular podcast throughout the season. mostly focusing on college football again and OU. Thank you so much. Be good for yourselves. Be good to each other, and have a wonderful, wonderful holidays. I'm out.